Jackson. I'm also on the PAVE committee with SCAPA. Special thanks to our education track sponsors, Carolina International Trucks, Linder Industrial Machinery, National Equipment Dealers, and Sweeping Corporation of America. We have industry-leading speakers here today from all over the country, which is possible because of these sponsors. We don't need to go over all the housekeeping, turn your cell phone off. Heard that enough now. We have Jon Elko with us. John's a business development manager responsible for the development of new business on behalf of BOMAG America in conjunction with distribution channels. John focuses on paving and milling segments within the Southeast region and including Texas. So I'll turn it over to Mr. John.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So when asked to do this, I was trying to take 4 hours and kind of capsulize it within 30 to 40 minutes. So we're going to show you some things, and we're going to go through a paver, things that you normally think that you look at on a day-to-day basis. But at the same time, I'm also going to talk about the most important thing, and that's going to be anticipated. We're going to talk about anticipated wear items, anticipated failures, and supply chain issues. Everything that we're going to talk about on your paver and on your piece of equipment, all right, as we go through this, you'll understand why, all right? So a lot of times I have this up here because this is victory here. He succeeded in what the task was. We're actually going to rebuild this paver. And I can promise you, when you get to this point, you're looking at every bit of 60 to 70 hours within your shop. Some of my top 5 areas that we're going to talk about: conveyor chains, all right, your bearings, your pump drive gearbox, your conveyor chain slats and your rear planetaries, your hydraulic filters in relationship to your generators, and of course, the one thing that we all up against is your depth, all right? The issues that we're still having out there in the field. So these were 2 machines that were basically, in their time, they were brand new, and they were put to the pasture. But I thought it was interesting. These are good pavers that have about 5,000 hours or more. But what are you looking at on this left side, okay? And you see when you look into that hopper, what are you really looking at? What are you really looking at that hopper? What are you trying to achieve? Because if I go out on a job site and I go to your job site and the machine's getting ready and you have it heated up and when you're getting ready to pave, I'm going to look in the hopper first. And everybody's like, well, why, but it's okay. I got conveyor chains, and what else are you looking for? Well, there's multiple things you want to look for. All right? What are you seeing here? Yes, you have conveyor chains, and they have tack on them and so forth. But look what you're seeing here. Besides this bar being in there, have you noticed that your TPs, your covers to your center guards they're not being covered. The chain's not being covered. So what does that mean? That means that the material that you dump into that hopper is going to lay on that conveyor chain, and it's going to run it to the back. All right? So now you're going to prematurely wear out your sprockets. But that's all right. We don't have time. Everything's important right now. But when you take that and you let it wear like that, it will run that material, and it's going to run it all the way back. So remember this, ladies and gentlemen. It's not a shuttle buggy. All right? It's not a shuttle buggy. It is made to carry the material, but your conveyor chains aren't made to be exposed to that kind of environment. So that's what I'm looking at here. But stay with me on this. There's another thing we'll look at. The other thing we're going to look at, and it'll be in a couple more slides. So this is the other thing we're going to look at. So with your eye, when you walk up to that conveyor chain again, because now we're talking about anticipated wear that I can do scheduling. I want to do scheduling and I want to time it within your shop. Thus, you want to know when the machine is out in the field. So what am I looking at? What I'm looking at is these counter bolts, these countersunk bolts. So your countersunk bolts are about the size of a quarter. What does that really mean? That means that when you bought that paver, they were the size of a quarter. When they become the size of a dime, that's telling you that floor plate is worn in half. That lets you anticipate the replacement and the wear. All right? So now you don't have that. But you will have that same type of setup in the majority of your pavers. But now you don't. They've made these really cheap and easy, and these are called ultrasonic gauges. You can buy them anywhere from $100 to $120. All right? They're really simple and easy. Go ahead and you can see what I've done here. I got 8.3 here and I got 7.2 here. So I did it myself. 2 seconds. All right? So remember, you're going to see that on the front discharge of your conveyors and on the rear discharge of your conveyors. But it's very simple and easy. But always remember this, and it doesn't matter if you have this kind of setup in your pavers, you could also have it in your shuttle buggies. So if you have it in your shuttle buggies or if you have it in your transfer machines, that bolt is telling you the depth and wear of that plate. Again, we're talking about anticipated wear, we're talking about scheduling, and we're talking about bringing it into your shop so that you can do it accordingly. All right? So again, if we looked at that conveyor chain at the beginning, and we saw that it was covered, and we don't want to take the time, all right? We don't want to take the time to do the proper maintenance. This is where it's going to be affected at. Do you really take the time when you're out there and you're looking at it, you're looking at the rear of your conveyors and checking it to see what the condition of your sprockets are? Because everybody really, they can't see it, they can't get to it, all right? But you can. Because if the front of your conveyor and that slat is crooked, and the guy and you have sat there and you've tightened your chains up accordingly, which I recommend every 250 hours, you tighten your conveyor chains up every 250 hours, and if you see that one side or the other of that conveyor and that slat is twisted or it's offset, what is that telling you? It's telling you that your bearing has failed. All right? Your sprocket might be good, but if you see that that conveyor slat is twisted from one side to the other, you already know where to go. You see it in the front. You know that your front idler bearings are good, but on your back, all right? Are you going to take the time to go and look on the rear of your conveyors? Because that's what's driving your production. That's what's driving your money, all right? That's what's driving your quality. Because if you have that failure here, the next thing that's going to happen, okay, it's going to bind up. This is number 2 on my list. Pump drive gearboxes. Again, now, why am I talking about pump drive gearboxes? All right? Pump drive gearboxes right now, supply chain issues, all right, are really bad. That means to get those internal components, to get those splines, to go get those bearings. You can probably find the bearings, but to get the splines and to actually rebuild that pump drive gearbox, it takes a lot of time. Do you know that 90% of the contractors don't even know what that pump drive gearbox? I check my oil all the time. No, I know you check your engine oil, but do you check your pump drive gearbox? Do you really know what type of oil goes into it? All right? Because when this is down, the paver's down. You're rebuilding your pumps. You're rebuilding your gearbox. You're waiting for those parts to come in, and I promise you this, that is every bit of 30 to 45 hours to pull that out and replace that pump drive gearbox. I checked it. When was the last time? Oh, we do it. You know, we check it every 250 hours. Well, when was the last time? You go to check it, and you go to drain it out, and it doesn't even come out like syrup. It comes out like oatmeal. All right? So that's what's driving it. Take the time and inspect it. Look at your pumps, the way they set against it, and look for any oil, look for any leaks. And if you do your inspections and you do your maintenance accordingly, the only thing you might have to replace is going to be that front seal on that pump. All right? Drive chains. So these are your conveyor. So these are your drive chains for your actual conveyors. All right? Some of them are set up differently. At BOMAG, we don't have these. You don't have to worry about your rear drive on your tires. Ours are built into our actual chain case. All right? Well, why is this important? Again, we talk about anticipated failure. We talk about what's going to down your machine in the field. All right? This is what's going to down it, because it's just a conveyor chain, but this drive chain that's behind that wheel is what's driving your conveyor, so that you put the mix in there and you have a hopper and you're really going at it, and then the next thing you know, the conveyor breaks. It stops. Wow, I looked at it, the chain's fine, the slack chains are fine. It is. Well, you didn't check this. Right? This is on a track machine. It's easy to look at. Right? This is on a wheeled machine. Right? This should be within your top 5 to 10 on your paver. Every month, every 250 hours, I'm checking this chain and I'm seeing, all right, do I have slap in it? Do I have any slack in it? All right, what's the condition of it? And I'm looking at that bottom sprocket. This is not an expensive chain. This is a 120 chain. All right? You can get it at any bearing store. But it's important. All right? The other thing that's important here about your maintenance is, you know, are you checking with your crew, and are they letting material build up on that tire? I have seen it where the buildup on that rear tire has actually drove the material into the chain and broken the chain because of the inability to clean it, of maintenance. So think about that. You have an option to install a culture to clean that, so that when it gets back here, because when it builds up, it drives it into that chain and it breaks the chain. Now, some of them have come up with options, and now they do have cover plates on them. So when that does happen, do you put the cover plate back on, or do you just move on because we're too busy? Cover this up, check it, all right, accordingly. This is number one. This is number one. This is number one failure. So everybody has intervals. Normally within the OEM, they're going to be either 250 to 500 hours, and then from there, pretty much all the OEMs have gone to synthetic. All right. So the synthetic is going to take you to 1,000 hours. All right. What am I going to look for on this? Here's my plug. All right. We can see that they've been into them. I can tell because that's the first thing I'm looking at. I look at that. I look at the head on that plug to see that it's been actually taken out and used. But like I said, 500 hours, but now I'm at 1,000 or 2,000 hours. I want to know that when I walk out there on that job site that I see a cheater mark on this. I want to see I want to see a paint mark here. So if I'm at 3,000 hours, I know that it's been drained and it's been basically replaced. I should see 3 paint marks on that plug, because that's what your shop supervisor needs to know. That's what you need to know when you walk out there. All right? Because again, we're anticipating failure. We're looking at what can happen next. Everybody says we have a good maintenance program. Do you? All right. So I look at that machine and it's got 1,500 hours on it, but yet you haven't taken the plug out of it. Because I can tell when you look at the paint. These are $32,000, you might be $35,000, but these are $32,000 for your planetaries. Half of them can be rebuilt, some of them can't. But this is simple and easy. Doesn't matter if it's on a wheeled machine or if it's on a track machine. All right? They have drive planetaries. So incorporate something like that. If you have it on a shuttle buggy, it's the same thing. They have planetaries. But incorporate that on your excavators, all right, on your pavers, on your loaders. That you start a culture that when they change the fluid on those planetaries, that you know they've put a mark on it. That way when you walk up to it, you know that they've done their job. All right? Heat coat. Why is heat coat important? All right? Yes, it does transfer heat to the screed. All right? Some OEMs don't use it. It's not going to hurt if you don't use it on your heating element. See, because in South Carolina, it does rain here and it does get hot and we do have moisture. All right? When you're done paving at the end of the day, and I drive by that paver, and I go and I talk to your equipment manager, and I said, what do you have for best care practices for your pavers? And he's like, yeah. He goes, well, I just passed your paver sitting in the middle of the median, and you know what? I saw the screed down. It was down on the ground. Really? Yeah. Well, why did you ask me that? Well, because, why wouldn't you leave your screed up after every job and leave it up so that if it does rain, all right, the water drains out, all right, and it doesn't set up, all right? It doesn't set up on my heating elements. So the heat coat will also help with that, because if you don't put heat coat down and you want to leave your screed down, and again, we're not out there all the time, but let's say we leave our screed down and it does fill up with water, you're going to have problems. You're going to have problems. The technology that we have on these pavers now, all right, are so sentimental and so touchy that you get a little bit of water in there, and the next thing you know, you've got either a ground issue, all right, something that you have to troubleshoot. It might even now be a sensor. Leave your screed off the ground, number one. Number two is, not only do you want to leave your screed up, because if you leave it down and there's a lightning strike, you have your screed on the ground. So it's going to conduct electricity through that screed that's going to carry it through to all that technology. Right? Not only with your paver, but also with your mill. All right? So if you have a milling machine, you should never leave your drum on the ground when you're done. Right? Take it off the ground so that if there's a lightning strike, something simple and easy. Again, we talked about the screed. We know that will down you. All right? But now what are we looking at here? Something simple and easy. So this actually, all these other pictures I took, I got them from another source, but this one was actually a customer's. I went out to him. His name was Adam at VA Paving, and I said, Adam, can I take a picture of your paver? Can I get your approval to use it? He goes, yeah. He goes, you're not going to say anything bad, are you? I said, no, I'm not going to say anything bad. I just want to use it. So what do you really see here? All right? Sure, it's a bogey wheel, and it's been ate up a little bit. But stand in front of them before they go up and stand back and look at it. So what I like to do is, I like to stand back and I like to look at the alignment of my bogey wheels on the left and the right side. Thus, if they're towing in, like you're seeing here, as you see this one towing in and towing in against the frame, what's that telling you? That's telling that your spindle bearings are gone. Your Garmax bushings are gone. That's causing problems on your tie rods. I never see it. Now, is it going to down you? No. But can it? Because now I got a bogey wheel. I got a rubber tire paver, and I'm going to put a hopper insert in it. So now if I'm going to put a hopper insert in that to achieve, all right, the production I want, what do you think all that pressure is going on? It's going on those two front bogey wheels, which will then what? Collapse it even more, all right? And then you'll start being like, oh, I can't use it. Why? Because your steering is basically, all your steering is tied into the side of the machine. I've actually seen cylinders wear into the frames of the pavers, all right? Very simple and easy to look at. The other thing that I'd like to do, this is just seeing it out in the field. The other thing I'd like to do is when I bring it into the shop and I'm really not sure about it, everybody has a 5,000-pound forklift. You can take a 5,000-pound forklift up underneath that front of that paver, barely lift it up and watch those wheels drop. And if those wheels drop, then you'll actually see more play in your paver. All right? Chains. This is your slat. This is what's carrying your conveyor chain underneath. What you're seeing here on the side, all right, is your worn pins. This is your actual conveyor chain on the side. The majority of the time you can't see it. You're not going to see it. You're not going to see it in the front of your hopper, okay? All right? But you'll see it under the side, and sometimes you might have to take the time and lay down there and look at it. Your slat will look good. My slat looks good. My conveyor chain, well, it looks a little stretched. I'm not sure. But at what point do we want to take this? Because I need to go ahead and get, can I get another 200 tons out of it? I don't know. Can you? Because that's going to be up to you. I'm just inspecting your machine. I'm telling you, I wouldn't take a chance. But you need it for that job. So when I showed you that picture of the hopper at the beginning, all right, and you know I need to replace those center guards, are you taking the time to take those center guards off, that's 30 minutes, and clean the side walls of the actual hopper on the inside? It won't take you but 30 minutes. You'll have an hour in it. But now you talk about conveyor chains that are costing you $12,000 to $10,000 to replace. Think about the longevity of it. It's not like a shuttle buggy where you have the slat that's going against the wall. You have slats that go against your walls on a shuttle buggy or on your Weiler, right? But this time you have a conveyor chain that's basically laying on the floor, and when you have material that builds up from that side wall and pushes it in, this is what you'll get. If you take your guards off, the majority of the time, the guys will take the guards off, we replace the guards. But are you truly going to look at it, and you're going to look at what the buildup is on the inside of your hopper? All right? It does the same thing. Once it builds up, it's very abrasive. So this is, I thought this was interesting. If you replace your tracks out in the field, you replace your rubber tire. So I don't know how many companies are, I don't know if you guys do your own tires, you replace your own tires or rubber tires. If you replace them, or you call a vendor in or an outside source to replace your tires. You know what's important about this? You see how these holes are lined up right here? Right? Why is that important? It's important that you know the way that paver's set up, okay, at all times for those toe arm screeds. And the reason why is that I've had a situation multiple times, and what happened is, hey, I don't know what's wrong with my screed, it's shadowing. Well, where's it shadowing at? It's shadowing across the whole thing, John. Send me a picture of it. Thank goodness we have the technology, so he sent me the picture. So the whole mat had a shadow. So I ran down, I looked at the paver because there's something wrong. There's something wrong with this screed. I don't like this. Talk to me. So as I looked behind it, what I did, I went from left to right. I put the screed down and didn't see a problem with it. But what I found at the end is when I looked straight behind my augers and I looked at the distance from my auger on the other side to this side, it was different. It was offset. So then I walked back around the other side and I said, you changed your tires. Who did that? Oh, I had the tire guy who blew a tire and he came out there and he replaced it. And I said, oh, guess what he did? He didn't match up the holes. So what he did is he took the screed and he had it cocked so that it was paving sideways the whole time because he didn't line the holes up. Something simple and easy that you would think would happen. But again, that's using the tire vendor, not your mechanics. See, they don't know any different. They're just coming out there to replace your tire. What are you really looking for here? We talked about your bogies. We talked about them being worn and towing in. But this is the other thing that's really easy. Everything you have right here for your steering on your bogies is right here. Here's your tie rod, all right? Here's your bushings, all right? It's simple and easy to look at. Are you going to take the time to actually inspect it and see that I need to get into it? Because the majority of the time, these are day and a half jobs, having the right parts. Because now we're going back to, like I said, anticipated failures, all right? Supply chain issues, but having the right parts on the shelf. Lead times on spindles, all right? They've gotten better. But bearings and bushings in some of this, the Garmax bushings, take the time to look at this part. It's really, sometimes everybody just, they walk past it because it's there, it works. All right? This is what it looks like new. You see them all open. You can see everything you want to see for your bearings. So, this is dielectric grease. So, this presentation was up. So everybody was talking about telematics and making sure you start. Yes, I agree with you. Take your telematics, hook them up, make sure that they're working. Doesn't matter if you have a paver, doesn't matter if you have a mill. This was the old way. Let's put some dielectric grease on there and let's make sure that way we have good continuity between the plug and the pins, all right? This is what I recommend, all right? How many of you guys own a boat in here? Nobody own a boat? All right? If you own a boat, this $19 can is going to keep the electronics up and running on it at all times. Salt weather, most corrosive environment out in the ocean. Probably, I don't know, I see a lot of guys that own probably $200,000, $300,000 boats, right? But why wouldn't you, if that paver costs at least that or more, why wouldn't you take the time to give that to your shop? To spray that on your toggle switches? To spray that on your electronics? You can take that and spray that on your electronics and you won't have to mess with it. Take your plugs that you have on all your connectors that have the caps on them, spray them in there, take your T9 and move on. I put the Yamaha lube in here because they've come up with their own form of T9. This has been my go-to. This right here is the bomb. So, make it simple and easy on you because again, if they take all their electronics and they take all their, if you guys use TopCon or MOBA, or if you use a Trimble system, everybody has sensors or sonics in it. They have to plug them in, but they take them in and out of the case. Then go ahead and spray it down, right? Before they put that case away, all right? Let the foreman know that. It's really good stuff. This was engineered by NASA. I just want you to know. This was engineered by NASA, and you can look it up when they first started with the shuttle, So, doing good. Why is this important? Okay? Go out there. Everybody wants to eat. They leave it. But I'm the guy that comes into the shop and I have to clean it. So what's wrong with it? I can't figure it out. My screed's not heating up right. Well, the reason why is that they left the trash down there, the trash caught on fire, all right, it melted the harness going from the generator to the tractor. Again, I talked about it, adjusting your conveyor chains every 250 hours. We talked about keeping your screed off the ground, all right, after every use, for lightning, for water. And again, now that doesn't matter what screed you have. It doesn't matter. Don't let water set up in it. Eliminate the failures before they happen. Why is this one important? What do you mean recommend? What's my tire pressure? For our pavers, we're 38 psi. All right? Everybody else might be at 35 to 32. See, because if you don't have the recommended tire pressure, there's multiple things that can happen, as simple as it sounds. If you have a lower PSI, that means that tire is going to squat before it goes up the ramp, before he loads it up. So the possibilities of bending that hanger bearing, number one, catching your end gate, all right, catching your end gate or your extension as it goes up the ramp, number two, all right? And then last but least, if you don't have the right tire pressure, that mat and that screed isn't going to pave right. You're not going to get the same quality that you would have, all right, out of that screed because of not having the right PSI in those tires. All right? This is always an easy one. I didn't really get into the screeds as much, but are you doing that when the paver goes out? Are the guys taking the time when that screed is up in the air? Are they taking the time to actually take 5 minutes to inspect the screed? Is there a crack in it? Is it wearing prematurely? Are they running it on their nose so that we know we have a poor paving practice, right? All right. Again, simple and easy. Keep your push rollers clean. Build up around the tires, like I was talking about. Battery cables and safety lockout. Not as simple as that sounds. Yes, I look at my batteries. I see that there's corrosion on them. That's an easy thing. Are you now looking at that harness going back to the tractor? Are you following that power underneath the tractor where it ties into the batteries at? See, because what happens is they all have that loom around them, and it's normally going to be a fiber loom. But if it has oil and you have oil or hydraulic leaks, right, that loom will absorb it. So that what happens over a period of time, and I have a 5,000, 6,000 hour paver, you'll start getting vibration. You'll start getting shorts, all right? Because you've softened that loom because of the oil, all right? And then again, park brake and stop. Are you checking them periodically? Be safe out there. Make sure that they take that paver up at least on a 15 degree and that they check to make sure that the park brake does work. All right? That's it, folks.